So we walk through this. Target costing when used when competition is high. We figure out the target price. So the target costing method might be, so this is total cost we went over. The target costing is a different strategy. It's if we know that our competition is charging a certain price and we want to beat them on that price. So we're saying market price is $80. We want a profit of $14 per unit. So we have to reduce our total costs per unit to $66, or else because we're not gonna be able to make the profit. So if we want to, the idea of target costing here is we back into it. We know we can't charge more than a certain amount. We can't charge more than 80 because they'll go to our competition. So where can we reduce our costs? And so we know we have to, right off the bat, reduce our costs to 66 at least. And then we back into, well, we want a 14% return on profit and on ROI, our invested assets are $1 million bucks. So what is our target profit? Here they're saying 140,000. We don't need to go on the calculations saying we want 140,000 target profit. And so how do we get that target profit? Let's see, which is $14 per unit sold. We're expecting 10,000 units. 10,000 units, so that's $14. And so we want to make $14 on every unit sold. And we know that our total cost per unit right now is 70. So our market percentage right now is 20%. This is our markup percentage. But eventually, we need to reduce our cost by $14 and able to get to a profit that we want to get. So ultimately, if we reduced our profit to 66, we'd still need to potentially reduce it further to get in our actual total profit we'd want. So all of these methods that I'm going over are just different ways for you to go about, and you'll have access to these slides, go about determining costs. And so total cost method, we can use this method if we really get to decide what our margin should be. Target costing, we might need to use if our competition sets the pricing. We can also use a variable costing method, and there's a lot of other different pricing methods. So I'll go over variable costing in detail. Variable costing. So I want you to memorize this. So what is our markup? We have our target profit, fixed overhead, fixed S&A, divided by total variable costs. Total variable costs. This is a cool thing about using some kind of spreadsheet software, which I'm hoping we can all learn a little bit here, is that you can just build in these formulas and it should make your life easier. It's like building your own calculator, right? And so that will equal our markup percentage. So our markup percentage will be equal to this plus fixed overhead plus S&A divided by our total variable costs. And then we can just plug it in. So here we're saying our target profit is 140, 1, 2, 3, which we got up here. We can even link it. Our fixed overhead is 140. We have it up here. So we can change all, you could change all of these numbers. Our target profit was 140. Where do we have? Here, 140. Our fixed selling and administrative expense was 60 up here. And our total variable costs were, we had up here variable plus variable. I think that's 44 plus, which is 68%. Here, it all works out. 68%. And then we can determine our selling price by then taking the $50 of our, we're saying our $50, where did they get that number from? So we'll say cost, and then we will say total final price. Same cost here. If the cost is $50, all we have to do is take the 68 times the 50, and then 50 plus the 34. Okay. And so these are different ways we can all go about it, but right, we can use this calculator in order, we can change any of these numbers now, and it'll spit out our markup percentage. And so the whole concept of this markup percentage is, what is our target profit? What's all of the fixed costs that we need to consider? And then we divide it by our total variable cost to determine the markup we need in order for us to reach our target of being able to afford all of our target profit, but also all the fixed costs get contributed to by our variable costs. And that's what our markup needs to be. So as you can see, we get different markups for all of this in order to reach our different goals. Variable costing methods more to make sure that we're covering all of our costs. The target costing is to make sure that we're meeting our competition. And the cost plus method is more just to determine if we can set our own margins. There's a lot of other methods that we can use, like value-based pricing, auction-based pricing, and dynamic pricing. So what's some examples? So value-based pricing is focusing on the customer's value. So determining how we can maximize the customer's value without reducing the demand. So professional services is a great example of this, is I can determine exactly what a customer is willing to pay and try to get them on their upper level if I want to, right? If I want to spend that time, maybe I don't have a fixed price in the market, or maybe I set a very high fixed price, and then for each individual customer, I can charge something slightly different in order to maximize how much each customer will pay. Car companies do this for new cars a lot, where they set a very high price, like maybe 50,000 list for a car, but the car's value can actually go down to 20,000. And the way that's their value-based pricing. They'll see how much a customer values that product and try to sell them at the higher price, right? For me, I think this is a little, I'm not a big fan of this. It's a way to do sales, but I think everyone kind of feels uneasy at the end of the day, because you know that ultimately they're trying to just get as much money as they possibly can from you. But the ethics of that is, well, if a customer is willing to pay it, then that's what the price they value it at. So there's two sides to every coin. Auction-based pricing, a lot of companies, advertising companies use this. You also see it on Amazon or a lot of tech companies nowadays, where whatever the bid price is, so whoever is willing to pay for a certain time slot or a certain commercial, that you'll get it at that price if no one's willing to pay a higher amount. So whoever is willing to pay the highest amount at that time. Dynamic pricing. So this is using pricing that depends on changing market conditions. So Amazon's famous using for dynamic pricing, and it got in a little bit of trouble with when we had some of those shortages back for coronavirus, early in the coronavirus stages, where they found they were surcharging toilet paper and all these other products. It's because they have in their model this dynamic pricing that if demand goes up for a certain product, they'll start charging more.